I'm on a mission. Like truly, like genuinely a mission. The hardest thing about reconditioning the human experience is helping people to understand it is easier for you to learn about your limits than it is for you to actually learn the truth, which is you are limitless. It is easy for us to hear that like you shouldn't do X, Y, or Z thing, or you can't do A, B, or C thing. People say that and you just believe it. There's this old story about an elephant. You guys know how they keep elephants captive? I was at a zoo and this elephant was massive, and if the elephant wanted to, it could run straight through the fence that it was contained in and nothing could stop it. It's too strong, too powerful, too massive. I was in South Africa and I literally watched an elephant push a tree down with very little effort and then just start eating the bark and leaves and branches of the tree. So you're telling me that this little fence that they have at the Fort Worth Zoo in Fort Worth, Texas, like could contain the elephant. So how do they do it? Well, what they do is that when the elephant is a baby, they take a stake and they beat it into the ground, and then they tie the elephant via a chain to that stake, and they tie that chain to the elephant's leg, and the baby will try to break free. It'll pull, it'll yank, it'll pull and tug and do everything it can to get free. And once it realizes it can't break free, it just stops trying. So then, even when they remove the chain, the elephant believes, I should stay near this stake. Well, human beings are not that dissimilar. People are told what they can't and shouldn't do, and they just believe it. And I'm on a mission to help remind you the truth is you are limitless. You can be and do anything. And that's why I do the work that I do. And that is the topic of this week's podcast. So welcome back to the aha moments, where every day I share the lessons I've learned in my work as a psychotherapist and in my life to inspire you to live your very best life. Of course, I'm your host, Elliott Connie. And when I say limitless, I really genuinely mean it. Like, you can become anything you want to be, and you become anything you set your mind to. You can become anything you attempt to be. I was thinking this morning, I've gotten to know a lot of really amazing comics over the past few years. Joe Coy, Tony Rock, Tiffany Haddish, Kim Whitley, as I watch them, like, I marvel at their skill. Now, I come from an academic background, and my background is, like, if you want to get a job, you go get a degree, and then you take that degree, and you get a job, and you work in that job, and so on and so on. That's like the academic mentality that I was kind of born into, that like the world that I accepted. But what's amazing to me about these people is they have this like weird, delusional almost belief in themselves. Like, if I can just get really good at this thing, it could change my life. I could one day be rich, famous, afford anything, do anything, go anywhere, all that stuff. And when I watch them, I realize, like, they just think without limits. Like, if I work at this craft long enough, if I push myself hard enough, I'll be successful. And eventually, they all did. They all became successful, and television stars, movie stars, famous through their comedy. And it's like, how do I get people? And I spend a lot of my time thinking this. How do I get people to understand you can be anything you set your mind to? Now, most of the time when we say that, it's in the context of you can become a comedian, as I was just referencing. You become a doctor, lawyer. But I also mean it like you can become sober, you know? You don't have to accept this idea that because I drank in my past, I'm destined to drink forever. You don't have to accept this idea that because I've been depressed in my past, I'm going to be depressed forever. Because I've been anxious in my past, I'm going to be anxious forever. The truth is, you can be anything you want to be. Now, that includes comedian, but it also includes happy, sober, joyous, calm. It includes anything that is related to you being the very best version of yourself. It is simply not just about the achievements externally in the world. It's also about achievements internally. And sometimes our limits are not just about external things. Like we've all experienced, you tell somebody something you want to achieve and they'll tell you why you can't and shouldn't do it. But it's also about internal things. So we accept these negative labels like I'm depressed. And then the self-fulfilling part of that label begins to take hold, where you just believe, I guess I'll never be happy. So please remember, you are in fact limitless, and you can be anything in the world you set your mind to, and that includes internal things like happy, joyous, and sober. That's how I want you to apply that knowledge into your life. Developing a mindset of limitlessness, I think, is one of the most important things that you can do for yourself, for your goals, for your ambitions, for your mental health, for your well-being, for your life overall, for your life in general. But so many of us never develop that mindset because we're so impacted by the world and by expectations and by things around us and by the limits people put on and around us. In the past few years, I've spent a tremendous amount of time around really successful people. And I can tell you, both in the entertainment industry and in the business world, and I can tell you the things that these people have in common is they just don't see barriers. I've talked about Tiffany Haddish lots and lots of times, how she has kind of conditioned her brain to not see obstacles. All she sees are dreams. If there are things that she wants to achieve, she just starts focusing on it. She just starts manifesting it. She just starts moving her life in the direction of accomplishing those things. And here's the thing. Anyone can do it. I want to give you 3 mindset shifts that if you do these mindset shifts, you're going to be able to achieve anything you set your mind to. The first one is being able to not allow other people to give you limits. And it happens all of the time where people, I'll tell you an example. Like when I was growing up, I had these big dreams, and I was young and in high school, and I was young for my grade, but I wanted to play varsity baseball, and I wanted to make varsity baseball. I think I was a sophomore when I set that as a goal, and people would say to me, "You can't do that." Well, why can't I do that? And they would say, because there's another guy who plays your position and you're really young, and they give you all of these reasons why you can't do it. And the crazy thing is, most of us believe those things. I believed it, and I actually didn't make the varsity baseball team until the following year. We believe the limits people give us, and people give us reasons for why their limits are right for us. But you've got to recognize they're not giving you your limits. They're giving you theirs. So it's really important to stop allowing other people to give you limits on your life. The second thing you have to do is stop following the rules. People will often tell you that you are struggling. You are not great. You are whatever. You are in this box. So when you try to tell them, I don't want to struggle anymore. I want to be great. I want to break free from this box. You are inherently breaking the rule, because the rule is people stay in this box. In order to become a limitless person and achieve your maximum potential, you have to be willing to say, I'm going to break the status quo. I'm going to break the societal norm. I'm going to get out of this mindset that everyone does everything this way, and I'm going to go the other way. And it requires courage, and it requires strength, and it requires focus. But if you are from inner city Chicago and you want to become a country singer, that breaks the norm. Or if you are from, rural Nebraska and you want to become an actor, it breaks the norm. But you have to be willing to just say, I'm going to do the things that other people struggle to do, whether anybody's ever done it or not. So break the rules. And then the third thing is, and it's connected to breaking the rules, but once you start doing things that no one ever done before, once you start breaking those societal norms or those expectations people have on you, then you're going to get massive judgment. People are going to judge you, and they're going to say, who does he think he is? And he thinks he's better than everybody else, or he thinks he's great, or he thinks he's this, or he thinks he's that. That's just what people do. That is like human nature, and it is what human beings tend to do. Ignore judgment. If you can do these 3 things, you are going to unlock your potential in a way that you can't even imagine, and I can't wait to see it. So I want everyone to do these 3 things and unlock your potential. I've said this before about myself, and it's totally true, that I am someone that is easily triggered towards inspiration. I am someone that when I see an inspirational story, it just gets me going. I can remember being, and I've always been this way. I can remember being a kid and going to watch Rocky 3 or 4, whichever one. No, 4, I think, when he was in Russia. And just watching the Rocky character overcoming the odds as he was fighting, the big Ivan Drago and winning, I came home and I told all my friends, like, I want to be a boxer because I want to face odds like that and overcome them. Like, that's just my personality. That's just like who I am. And there's a movie that I find more inspirational than any other movie, but I actually find the backstory of that movie even more inspirational. And I want to share that story today because it's connected to just seeing yourself in a limited way and then making life choices that help you achieve your potential in a way that is unbelievable. So the movie that I'm referring to is called Rudy. Most people would experience that movie as inspirational. Most people have been inspired by that movie. Most people have seen that movie. That's a movie that I don't think anybody would be surprised by, that someone would watch it and experience it as inspirational. It's just one of those movies. Now, those of you who don't know, Rudy it's a movie about a guy. His last name was Rudinger, which they called him Rudy, and he played football at Notre Dame. But how hard it was for him to get into Notre Dame, and then he was, not the typical kind of football player, and he had to walk on, and he had to get beat up in practice and all these things, and he literally just played in Notre Dame for a few plays in one game in one season, and he ended up getting carried off the field. But that, to me, is where the real inspirational story begins. And that, to me, is where the real kind of limitless potential example starts to take shape. So when he's carried off the field into the locker room, there was a reporter there who saw this and said, you are not someone who plays all the time. You're not like the best player on the team. You're not a hero on the team. Why did you get carried off the field? So Rudy explains to him, true story, this is not in the movie, this is what happened after the movie. The movie ends with him being carried off the field. So this is literally after the movie, right? So Rudy explains to the reporter about his journey as a football player and why the teammates carried him off the field. He was a beloved teammate because of how hard he worked in practice, even though he knew he was never going to play. So the reporter hears this story and says, oh my gosh, this is like a movie. And Rudy heard that and he went, oh, I can make a movie about my life. And he went and wrote a movie about his life and then went to Los Angeles to shop that movie. And he shopped that movie for years until he finally got somebody to make the movie about his life. And now we all know that as the movie Rudy. And I say that to say, how many people you hear something like that, oh, that would be a movie, and you just hear it as a wonderful compliment. But he heard it as, oh, I could do that. I said early in this week that a limitless mentality is not necessarily something that you just develop overnight. It's having a habit of pushing the next limit and the next limit. So here he was, he had pushed himself to the nth degree to try to be a University of Notre Dame student, which that did not come easily. And then to try to get on the football team, which that didn't come easily. Then to try to get on the football field, which that did not come easily. And then on the day of his last game, now I got a new horizon I got to go face, which is, let me see if I can turn this into a movie. And as you can see, he successfully did, because we've all seen that movie that we now know as Rudy. So just understand, and I think the lesson here, watch the movie, it's incredibly inspirational. But understand that we only know the story because he didn't view himself as limited. I'm not a writer, didn't get in his way. I don't write movies or scripts, didn't get in his way. I don't know anybody in Hollywood, didn't get in his way. I don't know any actors, didn't get in his way. I don't know any producers, didn't get in his way. I don't have enough money to produce it. Nothing stopped him. He just kept moving in the direction of his goals and his dreams, and he made it happen. So that's that's what I want you guys to take from this week's content. Is just push yourself and just try and see what's happened. The worst thing that could have happened to Rudy is he would have just heard no a bunch of times, and he would have wasted time writing a screenplay that nobody would have bought. The best thing that could have happened is actually what happened. Don't hold yourself back from the best things that could happen. Try, push, and see where you can find your limits. And I promise you, you are never going to find them. Thanks for being here. If you wouldn't mind doing me a super huge favor, I would love it if you would share this podcast with at least one person in your life that you think could benefit from hearing this message today. And also, don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you listen to your podcast. And also follow me on all of the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky. You can search for my name, Elliott Connie, or at Elliott Speaks. That's my handle across all platforms. Can't wait to see you tomorrow.